I'm taking another run at this because I finished this third book in the series, Demon in White, and I immediately came and turned on the recording, and uh, I came off a little bit saltier than I meant to, and I had to just sit with it. I ate a Snickers because I wasn't feeling myself, I suppose, and had to let it sit for a sec. But I think I'm thinking clearly now. Okay, so here we go. Demon in White, this third book in the series, in my opinion, is the best of the bunch of the first three. I know that generally people kind of think that they get better and better. I think that I've liked all of them. I don't know if I would call any of them a 5-star for me yet, just because I'm not totally invested in the characters and a lot of what's going on, even though, man, it's had some high points, and I do like the series a lot. Now, some of the qualifiers for maybe some of the things I don't especially go for, I'm going to try to qualify those so you know what kind of reader I am, and so you can maybe set that aside and see that, maybe you will see things differently than me. I think Howling Dark was the one I liked the least, even though I liked all of them so far. I liked Empire of Silence generally more. And Howling Dark, I liked the ending kind of less, but it had a great falling action. And in Demon in White, this was by far my favorite, which I thought it was going to be a 5-star almost all the way through. And then I did the last 120 pages or so today, and I almost was certain I wasn't going to continue with the series. That's how disappointed I was in the ending. Now, after sitting with it, I'm not sure if that's what I think now, because I think it's the necessary ending, and it's the ending that you would see foreshadowed and whatnot. But man, I just didn't like the ending, but I loved most of it, and I like at the ending of the first and the second book, there was this falling action where you kind of get excited for what's coming up, and I didn't especially get that for this last book until after I came on and ranted, and then sat and thought, once the recording was done, maybe what this means moving forward. Now I'm going to try to keep this or actually I don't know, maybe I will talk spoilers. But I will just say, spoiler free first, is I had the same sort of visceral reaction with the ending of this book as I've had with some other books in the past. I had this with Stormlight Archive with Words of Radiance, and that's the second book in this series, and I haven't read any further than that because I hated what was happening with the characters. I think a lot of, and this is where I'm going to try to qualify, a lot of people will really like bigger and bigger and more expansive sort of magic and things like that. And I much rather prefer something smaller. Like when it comes to enjoying epic fantasy, let's say, there are times where I would, rather watch Star Wars than read it. I don't especially love reading long action sequences, especially when it's just getting bigger and bigger. Like when it comes to action sequences, I much prefer Princess Bride, where there's some great dual interactions, and man, this has some amazing stuff there. But some of the bigger and bigger just loses me. I just don't find that fun to read. There have been moments in Malazan that have been long, action sequences that I love, but there have been some other ones that have been in the climaxes that were big misses for me because I just wasn't feeling what was really happening. And it, like, bigger and bigger doesn't always seem better for me. And so some of what's happening with the main character, when you talk of bigger and bigger, and you can maybe think of Words of Radiance, kind of like I'm not really going for that. I kind of want more Star Trek than someone becoming this central sort of figure that we get in a lot of these in these books. But at the same time, if that is for you, man, this story does it amazing. Now, one of the things, let's go to a positive. One of the things that I really like about this series is sometimes we'll find in sci-fi it'll be thousands and thousands and tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years in our future, and it's Earth-based, and you can, they make references to Earth, but it's, and you kind of just in your mind have to, accept that things have come through this, have done this process, and this is the way it was in the old Earth, and this is the way it is now. And you just have to make that leap. Now, you have to do that here too, because there's just a lot of crazy stuff going on, and that's awesome. But I do really love the lore and the connection. And if anything is going to keep me invested in the series, it's making those connections and finding out more about what has happened between old Earth and now, and what are some of the powers, and there's all sorts of weird things going on that it kind of brings some of the Trekkie sort of weird sorts of I don't want to spoil things, so I won't, but it really dials in the high fantasy and the high sci-fi sort of stuff where you do have to make some leaps, but and a lot of what we find has been borrowed a lot. Like, I haven't seen a lot of brand new ideas in the series, but I like the way he incorporates them. And especially in this third book, I think he is becoming a better writer as we go through this, and that does make me excited about the next books. He did the characters way better in this third book, in my opinion, where in the first two, I was interested in the plot, but not super invested with what's gone on. But I did really like the character work in this third book, even though in the conclusion, I might be a sociopath, but I didn't feel anything for some of what happened. I didn't feel anything in the climax and the falling action. And so that's where I thought, do I even like this? But I know I'm just so invested with the situation and some of the other stuff more than I am with the characters. But I'm sure I'm an outlier in that, and I do like some of the characters, but it just didn't land for me, this ending. But it is trending up. It continues to trend up, and it's definitely a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5 series for me so far. But maybe I'm not totally on the hype train yet. There are some things that I don't like about the writing, where I wonder if I'm reading the same book in some regards, where people are like, oh, he's just this fantastic, amazing writer. And I think his ideas are great, even though he does borrow a lot of ideas, and he does really tell a good story. But he does repeat himself. He does repeat himself a lot in weird ways. I can't tell you the number of times where he'll he'll do the thing that like I hate this, and John Gwynn does this too, and I near the latter portions of his books I thought, do I even like his writing? But where someone will scream and then the main character will realize that it was them that screamed. It's like it must have been 100 times so far in this series. Just the worst perpetrator of that. And as well, the what is the other one that he does? Where he doesn't, you know, it'll be a dramatic moment, and then he doesn't know if a week went by or hours went by or if seconds. Like he just kind of does that a lot, and it's things where I wish he could just leave those things aside because it brings me out of it because they're just so cliche in some ways, and I think this amazing writer could certainly do without some of those things that he brings up, and like repeats himself with some of those. I love his character work. I'm not a huge fan of his action sequences in the climaxes, even though I loved the opening, an action sequence earlier on and like a big space action sequence. Uh, but yeah, really, really fantastic writer in many regards, but he does need a copy editor. He needs one that'll actually sit down with a red pen and get that out because there are several moments where words are just outright repeated, or like if you showed it to him, you'd say, "Was this the sentence you meant to write?" And I'm certain that he would go, "Oh crap! Like I need to edit that." So in future editions, he definitely needs to get a copy editor for some of this, and John Gwynn had sort of the same problem. But all in all, like it sounds like I'm negative on the series, but overall, like I do quite like it. I might need to have a little break from it, maybe, um, because this one it's a big book, and I read that in like 5 or 6 days, and that's fast for me. Like I was just eating it up, and I did really like it, but I was just disappointed with after all that I didn't have the same sort of excitement going into the third book and going into the second book as now I don't really have that excitement as much going into the fourth book. So again, hopefully some of those qualifiers are there. I think the story's solid. I think it's great. I think it's a great mix of fantasy and sci-fi. I have my gripes. I don't think you necessarily need to have those same gripes. Uh, I think it's good. I think it's great. So talk to you guys soon. Bye.